Good day, everyone. This is Cocktails and Pajamas. I am Heidi Ferguson, and next to me, my podcast partner is Fadesta Ramsey. And today we have a very special guest whom Fadesta is going to introduce. Her name is Ginny Connon. So if you want to take a few moments and to do that, that would be wonderful, Fadesta.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, Ginny. It's so sweet to have you here with us, knowing you've watched the podcast, and also we've been really wanting to connect in this way together. Ginny and I have traveled through the relationship school, and she's an individual relationship coach as well as an intuitive coach, which I'm excited to hear more about, as well as an ice skating coach, which I think was your origins, if I recall. And then the mom of teenagers. So all of that sounds like a lot of relational learning and wisdom that I'm excited to hear you share today. Welcome, both of you, to our guest podcast today. Yeah.
Thank you, Farishta, and thank you, Heidi. Just quickly acknowledging my feelings here, that it's my first time being with you on this platform and the newness of it. And then I'm just relaxing into my chair and I'm drinking a sparkling pineapple bubbly.
Nice.
Love
and
it.
wearing my pajamas.
Nice. You're comfy.
Yeah.
I love the comfy. So we'll start off with our check-in as we do every week. And I'm happy to start off unless you want to go first, Jenny. It doesn't matter to me. I'm open to whatever.
No, go for it.
Okay. So this week we're like in the last full week of February. It's hard to believe that we're already 2 months into the year and we're surviving. We're doing it. And last week I talked a little bit about my mental health, which I'm still feeling good about, even though today's a pretty gray day and it's rainy here in Philadelphia. But I find that, what they talk about, like, especially with people who are struggling with depression or addiction, is that it's a lack of connection. And so what I have been really intentional in my life about is having something on the calendar at least 2 to 3 times a week where I'm connecting with someone. And that is either in person or in a Zoom call or whatever. And it can be anywhere between, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes a little bit longer. But that's kind of how I feel my spirit, like when I'm connecting with others of like minds. And then to kind of dive into a conversation that's really yummy and deep. It not only fills my spirit, but it also expands my kind of curiosity and my mind and my heart. So I wanted to start off with that. And then I also wanted to bring our attention to the date today, which is 2/22/2022. So when I say it like that, it's kind of funny because there are a lot of twos and it's only twos. But for those who are into numerology, I believe there's something there. I don't really follow a lot of numerology. I'm just kind of fascinated by dates and how, they kind of, how they land in our lives. Like, do they have any meaning for us? And I know that some people are doing rituals like intentions specifically for today moving forward, or let's say a person's favorite number is 2 or 22 or 222, and it's a Tuesday. I mean, what are the odds, right? So so if anyone wants to put something in the chat that they're relating to concerning this date or this day or whatever, or just a shout out and say hello, we would love to hear from you. So I think that's kind of where I'm gonna stop for now and invite Ginny to share a little bit if she'd like.
Thank you, Heidi. It's amazing. As a relationship coach, I'm doing active listening, which is interrupting you to get on your same page as you, but in my head, because I know that I love how your ritual of coming on here is really holding space for letting you speak what's going on and not interrupting. So it's a wonderful acknowledgement there. And I just want to say, what I'm hearing is you connecting to yourself by connecting with other people and committing to that a few times a week, and opening up to the listeners if something's coming up for them that they want to share around Tuesday, being also the second day of the week. So there's another 2 in there. And yes, I was definitely called to do some work on, what was that? And numerology came up. So thank you for the connect there. Yeah, and my check-in. A lot of times my morning rituals are to see what's coming up for me, what I'm listening to, and the patterns, if I'm hearing it more. And alignment is definitely a message that has been coming to me a lot through other people, conversations, my own noticing. So alignment is very loud for me right now. And the other, which I posted on my Instagram, was compassion and unity, which also has a lot to do with the numerology and the meaning of today. And I definitely want to I made note to acknowledge both of you here, and the energy, the energetic resonance, or the energetic frequency that when I come on and I see that I get a notification that you're on, I hit the button, and you come on, and listening to you brings such a sense of calming to me as a higher level listener. Yeah, I really want to acknowledge that there's there's a self-regulation in that, speaking to also your connection. And first, today, especially when unity came up, I just want to acknowledge your platform and your strength in your voice. And 22222 being the number 10 as well is a very powerful number. And the fact that we are meeting today, and I am acknowledging that this is a day of, it's actually recognized as enormity, and where the beginning of that is. Yeah, so that's my check-in.
Wow, Ginny, thank you. I'm feeling really touched just at your like desire to show acknowledgement, to care for the field by making acknowledgements. That's feeling really sweet to me today. Thank you. And yeah, I'm hearing you in this. You said it in your email to me, this kind of, you called it low pitch listening, which I got curious about. And then here you're talking about different forms of listening, which I think could be part of our conversation today. But before I do that, I guess I'll check in on my work the last few days, and probably last few weeks, has been, I have a very strong hustle muscle. I have a very strong work ethic, and I can get things done and I can push through. And yet my spirit over the last year or two has not wanted to just push through for the sake of pushing through. It's actually felt dishonoring, I think, of myself and my body and my nervous system to do that. And having time to practice, having moon time and being like, I have cramps, I'm tired, I want to rest. How do I do this while still holding some of my commitments well? And what happened yesterday was just being like, I'm tired and I'm empty, and I've got to hear that, and I've got to honor it, and clearing some of my schedule and just resting without guilt. Really being like, oh, this blanket's yummy, and oh, this cup of tea is yummy, and oh, I don't have to get out of my pajamas, and soaking it up as a gift instead of the kind of rest I used to do, which was I'm resting, but I'm a little worried. I'm resting, but I'm a little guilty. I'm resting, but I'm a little there's a tinge of icky in it. There just wasn't any of that. And it was there's this way that's possible. I kind of want to shout it from the mountaintops, you know. There's a way to just say, no, this is what I need, and like I love you all, and like I'm checking out for the day. So yeah, it's just beginning for me, that like place that feels really clean about it. So I'm sitting with that curiosity, like, ooh, what does this mean? Like, what's possible from this place? Yeah. So thank you both for being here. I'm super excited just to see where the conversation goes, and curious what's alive for either of you that you just want to, beyond the check-ins, like kind of dive into.
Yeah, I'm really feeling into this narrative. It sounds like you're changing the narrative around what you have told yourself before, or maybe believed before, right? And how, because you and I in our discussions a lot, we talk about unlearning. So like unfurling and unlearning things that we have been doing our whole lives that may not be working for us now. Like it works sometimes, yeah, that kind of go and get them button, that works sometimes. But then we also need to slow down. Like our bodies tell us when we need to slow down. So I'm really appreciating your sharing that. And also what it does for me is it tells me that you have your own back. You're going to take care of yourself. And I don't have to worry about that for you, because I'm one of these people who takes care of other people. It's, you know, it's a gift, and it can also be a curse sometimes. But I'm also filled with, I love when I know that my friends have their own backs. So I can still think about them and in my heart take care of them, but I don't have to worry. I'm like, they're good. And if they do need something more, they'll let me know. Right? Yeah,
Right.
I'm all over that. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Heidi. I'm just kind of getting this download of, it's not just for me when I do that.
No, it really serves everybody. Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
How
Yeah,
about you?
I'm hearing more balance in that. I'm hearing more, what's coming up is the yin and the yang, and the masculine and the feminine energy. And the other thing that was really neat that came up was when you were slowing down, I actually saw you like taking bread and like putting it into soup, and like watching the soup go into the bread. Yeah, that's kind of what came up for me around that. And I'm like, yeah,
I love
right.
that. Yeah, there's like rest and digest time, right? Yeah, it's like if all we're doing is like taking in, taking in, taking in, when do we integrate? When do we process? When do we like let the sediment kind of settle in
Yeah.
ourselves?
And I think there's some nourishment there too in that. Yeah, Heidi's nodding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the word that came up for me, is nourishment. When you were the metaphor of the bread and the soup, and I was like, that's nourishment. That is self-care. That's so yummy and warm. And I'm like, oh God, yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to put on the stove after we're done here? I'm going to be putting on a pot of soup. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for that. That was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm curious for you, Ginny, just knowing you're a mom of teenagers, knowing you run a business, knowing you coach in multiple arenas, like how do you find your rest, nourishment? How do you get
Yeah,
that in
yeah, yeah.
as a woman
It,
and as an entrepreneur?
yeah. It's actually exercise. For me, exercise balances me. So my rest is actually focusing on a tennis court. And then obviously recovering. I swim. So there's a lot of, that's actually, water is very feminine energy, whereas tennis would be more masculine. So on my days off, I do them both. So that's restoration for me. And it keeps up my energy level. Yeah, so exercise is a big, believe it or not, resting point for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of
Even
sense to me.
even walking the dogs,
Mhm.
whatever, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I sleep well. Like that is part of my values, is one of my two favorite things to do. Um, one of my favorite hobbies, I used to say this and I still say it, is one of my favorite hobbies is to sleep.
You've got a simpatico over here.
Yes. The ritual. Oh my goodness. Even waking up, that's when I get my best thoughts. It's when I wake up in the morning, or if I'm having clarity, or if I'm hearing something.
Mhm.
That's when I'm hearing it the most, because I'm obviously clearly most aligned. So
I love that. Yeah, that liminal space in the morning. I used to say I guard it, but I really just honor it. You know, the morning ritual is for me to be connected to source. I
Mhm.
think I come awake somewhere in there already. So it's like, let me just swim here a little longer.
Mhm.
Let me be here. And my partner and I both have our meditation rituals in the morning. They're separate. And that way, like the morning doesn't start with logistics or domestic stuff, or it's just like, that doesn't work for me. It actually, I wait till I'm like really anchored to let the world in.
Mhm.
That's been a non-negotiable for years now. You know, it's like once I'm resourced, then the gates can open, but not before.
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Heidi,
Mm.
what's your
Yeah. So I have my morning ritual, and you talked about exercise. So I live maybe a half mile from a really beautiful park. It's called Fairmont Park, and the Wissahickon Woods and whatnot. And there's a creek that runs through the woods to the Schuylkill River. And I probably get out 2 to 3 times a week. In the winter, less so. So I will say, even though I know this is terrible for the environment, the way the weather is going, there are some gifts that come with that, because if it's warmer, I'm going to get out more. And I'm not like a walker. Like I am a stroller. I love to stroll, and I love to, just take my phone and just click, 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 click. And I would say one of my favorite things to do, Jenny, is to, like, let's say I get out 3 times in a week, even in those 3 different times, and let's say I walk the same path, things look different.
Mm.
And then to see the changes in the seasons, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot more foliage than I remember from 2 days ago, or whatever it is, right? Or there are a lot more leaves on the ground, or it's just brighter, or whatever the situation is. For me to notice those little nuances, they're not so little, but they are little nuances. Um, I not only appreciate it, but I also feel a lot closer to spirit. Like that's where, besides meditation and whatnot, and the intentional things that I do in my routine, when I'm out in nature is when I feel closest to my higher power, to spirit. Yeah.
Mm.
What's
I'm
coming
really,
up for me there was, I know you have Lindsay Mann on a few times, and I was in a reading with her, and she said, and trees, you actually need permission to touch a tree. It
Mm.
always stayed with me. And
mm.
occasionally, if I'm walking with a friend, I'll just mention that little fact. And it's always interesting to hear, oh, okay, and just to get their, the reaction, what they think, and just to notice that. But absolutely, one of my favorite things in fall, it happens if I catch it. I'll be driving in my neighborhood or walking, and there's that moment where it was really cold the night before, and all of a sudden it's this, all the leaves at one time, because it was a gust of wind or something, and they hit that frozen, and then it's just snowing leaves. It's just like literally,
Mm.
yeah. And that release, like the trees release.
Right.
Yeah. And then I happened to catch it this year, and I just sat there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to release it. Like, this is it. Yeah. This is
Yeah.
beautiful. This is
Mhm.
connecting.
Mm.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And listening to you, connecting to spirit and making note of that too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like a
hear
little
with both.
intention there.
Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
even with both of you, just this place of being a part of the natural order, bringing ease, right? And I'm relating to that too. And I tend to take photographs when I'm out, but there's also a living meditation to it. Like, I'm a savorer. I'm just looking at every little bud right now that's beginning to even think about coming out in the spring, and knowing like what colors are actually on that, particular flower, knowing these places in my neighborhood. And when I take a photo, it's like really with reverence. I'm generally in awe. When you see photos I post, it was a moment of like being awestruck, that I was just like, I have to capture this. And it grounds me to be in nature, but then to be observant like that in nature, right? Like a real reverie for, like, this is amazing. And in 5 minutes, it's going to change, right? Like the remembrance of it's ever unfolding, just like me, and not to expect things to be linear or static ever. Yeah, I learned a lot of spiritual lessons in the woods, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious too, Ginny, if you don't mind me asking just a few questions. I've had curiosity around part of your,
Right.
the title you have, like relationship coach and intuitive coach. I'm wondering for you what that means, what that looks like, and are those two merged? Or are they separate things for you?
It is somewhat speaking to the evolution and the infinity. The infinity symbols come up twice this week for me. Once I was actually, last week, or should I say last week, I was in my stone store, Daylin, where I live, my healing store, where I go. Sometimes I'll go even if I'm feeling that I need to connect. They do a lot of Reiki, blocking, a lot of spiritual healing there. And I was drawn to an infinity ring. And then it was brought up today, actually. And that's sort of where I was kind of thinking with you, what you're saying, there's a continuum, and just to give you the essence of what you're saying. And that's somewhat how I coach, is I'm aware of things, and I don't know why I'm always aware of these things, but I'm able to retain whatever, even a slight message. And I have a very compartmentalized memory. So when I'm coaching, I can bring back a conversation that I had 6 months ago with someone and relate it back into what they're saying now. So that's where I'll use my intuition in my coaching. And I don't tap into someone's psyche without any type of permission. It's just using my intuition and what we've worked together in the coach-client relationship. And what's happening is, what I'm finding is, the more I do this, the more it's opening up my client's intuition. So I finally tapped it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to write relationship coach. But there's more to it with my coaching. And that speaks to me coaching on the ice as well, is that I intuitively, having done it for 13 odd years or whatever, I've always had a sense. And I'll even, if I'm feeling a parent watching, I'll eye contact with them and get on the same page, whether they need to come over or something. So I use it in a few ways, but it's really neat to see it, Heidi, transfer to clients and body as well, especially in coaching, in the skating coaching. Because it's like, I'll ask like, well, how did that feel? And how would you do it? So it's encouraging intuition as well.
I love that. Yeah. And there's something you had named many moons ago that I remember about bringing that forward more, bringing that healer energy forward more. I'm curious if you want to share, because I'm just like I don't know what that totally means. And I also really want to know what that means to you.
Yeah. So I had 2 astrology readings last year. And then I happened to connect with another astrologers like me. and she said, oh, things are going to relax a little for you starting January, February. And I kind of held that in the back of my mind and just relaxed into it. Didn't really think about it too much. And what is coming through is the alignment and my beginnings of Reiki when I was 20 and was told to go into it. This is what I should be doing. But I didn't feel ready. I was very shy. I didn't want to work in other people's energy yet. So it's really coming to the forefront. I think I've arrived, like I've come to my natural state through working on myself. Really working in through diet, exercise, belief, huge, 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 huge. So I hope that gives you a picture.
Yeah, I love
Where it goes, what's coming up for me is psychic healing. If it goes that way, there might be a reason why I'm with Heidi today. Yeah, absolutely.
Heidi, anything resonating for you there? Obviously.
Everything.
Yeah.
Really everything. And, when you said the word belief, like belief is everything, yes. And believing in ourselves, that our gifts really are gifts. And because if we don't believe in ourselves and our own psychic abilities, nothing's going to work. Like, it's just not going to work. The coaching we do, the work we do is not going to work if we don't believe in ourselves. And so I still have even though I've been doing this for, I don't even know how many years, and it doesn't matter, but I will say there are moments where I do feel like I want a little bit of validation just to feel okay. Right. And for the most part, I feel like I'm beyond that. I've built my, what's the muscle I'm looking for? I have built my my sense of confidence where this is concerned, and also knowing that this is not me. This information is not from me. It's coming through me, but this is not, like, the information is not coming from me. It's coming through me to my client or to whomever I'm speaking to. And I think that is, for me, that's what solidifies everything. And I'm like, as long as I remember that and that's in the forefront of my mind, I'm good. I'm good. And most days I'm good. Like I said, there are days when I'm like, I just need a little validation. And then most time I'm like, I'm good, because things manifest, things show up. And I'm like, wow, that really works. And I'm still surprised, not because I don't think it's real, but I'm still surprised. I want to always be in awe. I want to never feel like this is something I take for granted, because I don't take it for granted. I'm so humbled by it, like truly every day humbled by this gift that I have, this gift that actually we all have. Let's be honest, we all have the gift. It's whether or not we're utilizing it in our lives and in our relationships. So anyway, that's where I'm with that.
Yeah, that's anyway huge message right there, that we all have it, and it's whether we use it in our relationships. Yeah, aware of.
Yeah. And I'm curious, Jenny, and I know that you're using it too a little bit, and actually a lot in your practice, but Fedesta, but I'm curious, when you're using your intuition and your client is in alignment with you in the intuition piece, I don't even know the question that I want to ask, but I'm imagining like magic happens. Like, I'm curious how that flow is. Like, what is that like? What is that experience like? I mean, I have my own experiences, but I'm curious to hear from the two of you.
First, I want to go first just because it's right on the tip. Yeah. The curiosity, actually, I hold space for it. And that's what I love about presence-centered therapy, is that all I do is bring that curiosity that you're feeling to my client.
Mm.
So I ask questions around my intuition. I don't give it. Sometimes, if I'm working with a person who's more growth minded or on a growth minded journey, more aware of their journey, I'll share. But it's definitely not a brag. I keep it to myself for the most part. And that's when I'm like, okay, I really like coaching this because I can't use it at all.
Right.
Like I'll only, and that's honoring their spirit, their growth, their
Mhm.
journey there. And yeah.
Mhm.
I love
Brilliant.
that. It's reminding me, because we've had similar training, right? To just be curious, to be human, and to be an ally to whoever we're working with, so that we're not handing them answers that we probably won't know for them specifically. And our mentor, like Jason Gaddis had said once, like, it doesn't stick if you feed people their epiphanies. They've got to get to them themselves. That's how it sticks. So I always hold that to be true. And for me, I'm going to like sidetrack a little. The same thing I have to do as a singer on stage or in the studio, which is getting out of my own way, putting my human animal over here, giving it a cup of tea and a warm blanket and saying, I got this. But I, in terms of the big I, right, the source, spirit, energy, is the same thing I utilize as a coach, right? It's keeping my experiences available because that might be supportive, but taking the like meanness out of it. That, oh, I'm here, it's me. Because like you said, it's not me altogether. It's some skills I've gained, it's some tools I'm equipped with, it's some knowledge that I've been trained in. But it feels like the same energy that's kind of like, okay, I'm showing up and I'm going to trust what comes. And I'm not going to sit there trying to shift all the gears as this human. I'm going to trust that in that stillness, in that getting out of my own way, things will come. And the same thing, Ginny, I love what you said, just the curiosity. I'll be like, I wonder why that person feels that way about that. And I can ask, how come you made that mean X, Y, or Z? Right? Because there could be 1,000 different meanings, but you picked that one. What's up with that? Like, I'm curious. And it's like getting to be on a scavenger hunt with someone, and like or a treasure hunt, I guess I think of those, and being the one with the map, right? That just has the X's. You don't even know what the treasures are yet. But you're like, okay, so the next one looks like it's behind a bush over there, right? I'm thinking of little kids. I have that same level of excitement about, we're going to go on a treasure hunt for the next hour. I'm curious what we're going to find, just as curious and I will say unknowing to some degree as the client. But that's what feels incredibly delightful to me about this line of work is I'm not automating anyone. I don't think I know anything about them specifically. I like that they're the authority on themselves. I like that level of agency and sovereignty. And again, Ginny, I think you said it too, like having that person begin to learn that they've got an intuitive voice, that they have a truth. And when we do kind of have that weaving of energies, it's resonance. They just kind of get hit with, that's really true for me. So that's how I see it in the coaching experience is it's undeniable when it's true for someone. It hits them, they feel it, they're impacted by it in some way. Something opens up. Ginny, do you agree? Is that like an accurate, or does that your experience?
Like one word, impact. Powerful. Yeah. Powerful. Holding that space and obviously trusting their process. And the guide, being the guide. And what's coming up for me when you said that and the little children made sense is almost like you're a guide with wings. I mean, I don't know if someone's ever said you, or lately that someone's called you angel or whatever, but the wings is coming up big.
That's so sweet. Well, my name Firishta means angel.
Okay, that's why.
So I
I
love
might
that.
have known that before, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like
that's a recall for sure then.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Nice.
honest work, right? The choosing to go into tender places, maybe places that we haven't, like I'll say for me, that I haven't touched or that I haven't really looked at. It's tender work, but it can also be playful.
Speaking of playful, with like, if you were to give your fairy a name, what would your fairy's name be?
I don't know that I thought about fairy names ever. That's a great question. Do either of you have a fairy name?
He's going, who's this crackpot?
Do you, Ginny?
What's coming up is my fairy name. Hope. Hope is, yeah,
Mm,
Hope is coming up today. Hope sort of brings in there.
I like that. I don't know. I'll have to think about that a little bit. Something in the joy realm comes up for me. Joy is a big deal to me. And I think that the honest work allows us to have more joy, access to joy.
Joy is one of the hardest emotions to really keep.
Mm.
In my research, I come across all these wonderful little tidbits. And just speaking of that, I know we're on a podcast, so I wanted to invite listeners who are listening now or in the future, to ponder that one. It doesn't have to be a fairy name. It could be a nature name, alias, AKA.
Heidi, do you have one coming up? I love that question.
So I don't know that I completely understand the question. So like,
I hear that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. No, not in regards to the fairy. It was just a joke. It does.
I don't understand the question.
Oh, it's in regards to play. So it would
more, please.
Krisha, you want to take this one for me? Because I can explain a little more. Just in regards to play.
Yeah.
So I work with kids.
Okay.
A lot of kids. So it would be like, oh, what would your name be if you were a?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I had something. I was thinking of something. Okay. Probably something like Tiny. Or yeah, probably something like Tiny. Yeah. Yeah. Tiny.
Hi, Tiny.
This is an interesting exercise, right? Because it was such a pivot from kind of like the adult conversation. Like, as you said, it's something you ask children, and just noticing my brain be like, what? Right. And then have to be like, oh, wait, imagination, play. Like that's part of living too. Like how much that gets squirreled away in a corner sometimes. So thank you for giving us that like little detour that's like, oh my gosh, like it's a pattern disruption.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm having some curiosity around something. What were we talking about, Heidi? It was the whole like being able to reveal ourselves when we're not doing great. Is that what we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious for either of you, your experience around if you're tracking somebody you care about and you have a sense like something's up, right? But they come to you with like, I'm fine, or I'm, even worse for me, like I'm fabulous. What happens for you internally? That kind of incongruency between your experience and what that person is communicating.
So I'm just going to really be direct, as I always am. And I'm going to say my bullshit meter shoots to 100. Like the meter, literally just. And so, but I also, given the person and what I know about them, I treat it very tenderly. And so I might confront them in a gentle way by saying, so what I know that's been going on in the last, pardon me, week or so is not congruent with what you just shared. So how do we bring those together and be a little bit more honest about what's really going on? I get that you probably want to feel great and you want to really be doing well, and I want to support you in that. But right now in the moment, I would prefer you to be really honest with me, or just if you don't want to respond at all, it's okay to not say anything. Like give them permission to be honest. And also, if they don't want to share it, they don't have to share it. Like give them that option, because I would even though sometimes the truth is really hard for people to share, I would rather hear their truth than not hear their truth. I want to know if someone is really struggling. I don't want to hear them say, life's fantastic. No, it's not right now. And it's okay that it's not right now. Like, I want to be there with that person. That's going to connect me. That's going to create more intimacy, as opposed to someone saying, I'm great. No, I know you're not. So would you rather just not respond? Because that's okay too. So that's, yeah. And that reveals a lot about me. Like my tolerance for bullshit, I just don't have it. I don't have it. I don't. Yeah. So that's where I am.
Yeah. And I'm hearing for you, like a call for honesty.
All the time.
I'd be like, I'm feeling X and I don't really want to talk about it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Or I'm feeling X and I do want to talk about it. Right. But not the like, performative. I guess that's the word that's coming up for me. The like performative great that both of you know isn't true. It's like who's fooling anybody with that?
Right.
That energy. As sensitive people, I think as highly sensitive creatures, we're gonna feel that way quickly. And maybe other people don't track it and do miss it. I don't know. But I find it hard to trust someone. I think it's a trustworthy thing for me. Emotional congruency, being so trustworthy. I want to be trustworthy with people, and I want to have friends that I feel are trustworthy. Right? And like you said, Heidi, compassion of like, not everyone wants to like show you that tender spot when it's raw and painful, and that's okay too. But yeah, a realness is what I'm after these days. How about you, Ginny?
Yeah, what's coming up for me is, and again today, and it's come up twice now, Tuesday is in an angel context is also about compassion and confidence. And so to me, I'm hearing how confident is that person to show up in closer to their authentic self? Are they feeling comfortable enough to do it? And your frustration around you giving to them and them not being able to necessarily reciprocate. And the other thing that comes up, so I should take for a second to acknowledge that. Yeah. And then the second part is time. Time came up for me. How much time do you want to give that? A day, 2 days, a month, a week, a year, and gauging on your relationship and the security, the insecurity around it.
Yeah, I love that. I think I hadn't even really correlated relationship security with that, but it's such a huge foundational piece of, if I'm not being let into your world, if I'm always a little bit on the outside and I'm kind of kept at arm's length by a facade, a mask, a protective mechanism, how much security am I going to feel?
Right.
I don't think I would feel much.
Yeah.
You know? And I think of myself as somebody who wants to lean in to those difficult conversations, and has the emotional capacity to, even if it's even if it's hard for me.
Mhm.
So thank you for bringing that. It does provide security if we can be real with each other.
Mhm.
And I'm holding a lot of the conversations I've had since the pandemic. When I say, how are you to people, most of the time they just say, oh, I'm struggling a little, or I'm a hot mess today. And I love the permission it's giving
Mhm.
me to be able to say the same thing instead of like, I'm great. How are you? Great.
Yeah.
The depth of conversation is sweeter when we're honest that way.
Yeah.
And it
I feel
sounds
less
like that
alone.
people are getting the download of, yeah, it's okay to say you're not okay. And that stress is a silent killer. And that, it's okay to even tell a stranger how frustrated and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I've had a few, even the line up at the bakery outside, because they're only allowed 6 people in right now. And the amount of empathy that is growing. I was on a call today earlier, and I heard, the world is a mess. And I just really, I paused at that and I stopped listening. She kept talking. And I was like, and this was just me listening. It was a speaker. And I was like, well, that's black and white. And okay, no judgment. But the world is also evolving in a beautiful way. What is growing? The empathy. And that's the last piece that came up for me for you, Heidi, was, yeah, the bullshit meter. What is it telling you? For me, and I'm not coaching you here, I'm just going to tell you my thoughts, is your empathy meter, right? When I'm the same, absolutely, the BS, because I give 110 like you. And the world empathy meters coming is growing, and we're not there, but it's, it is growing. So do I want to acknowledge that statement? Sure, but I'm not taking it in, and I don't believe it. I think it's personally a complete redundant it's not helping. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that statement? The world is a
it's not
mess.
serving anyone.
Okay.
I mean, when I hear that, I'm like, first of all, it doesn't resonate true to me.
Okay. Yeah.
To hear that the world is, what was the statement? The world is what? A mess?
A mess.
No, that's I struggle with general statements, and I feel like that's
And
a
bullshit.
statement. What?
And bullshit. Yeah.
It's bullshit. It is.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm like, so have you looked outside today? Because I'm seeing a lot more than a mess going on. Right? Like, I see a bird flying in the sky right now. I see a squirrel like having a great time on the roof across the way of it. Like, there is so much more than the world being a mess. And we don't have to even look that far. It's literally in front of us all the time if we want to see it. If we want to see it. And it's also, I will always speak for myself, where my heart is. I want to see the good. I want to see the change. Yes, we are struggling. The majority of the humans on the earth right now are struggling with a lot of things. Doesn't mean we're a mess. Doesn't mean the world's a mess. We're just struggling. And I also am a strong believer that, I have no idea as far as time goes, but I am a strong believer that we, collective, we will come out the other side much better human beings. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but that's my belief, because I really want that to be true. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox.
I'm just
Thank
so
you.
loving
No,
your
I'm loving
passion.
it. I'm loving it.
I'm just
Yeah.
loving the passion with which you're bringing that. And I think, you know, the capacity to hold both and the whole spectrum, right? There are parts of the world that are suffering. There are people in the world that are suffering. There are catastrophes and messes we've created that are man-made. And my experience has been the majority of humans I've come in contact with my entire life, I've seen a lot of goodness and care and neighborliness and compassion and showing up and stepping forward. So when I look at the studies, you know, all those rates of things that aren't great have been going down decade after decade, and the rates of things that are great are going up decade after decade. So we are moving ever slowly towards more health in this on this planet. And I just love to like be curious, like that human, if she says the world's a mess, like is her heart broken? Is that just how she's feeling in this moment? Or is it really that black and white thinking, like I see no good? Because it's like, this to me is the preciousness of life, of being like, oh my God, my heart's broken over there, but my heart's cracking open over here watching these baby robins, you know, in their nest. And like, how do I learn to hold both without losing my center?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do I stay within trust and spirit while being like, I see all of it. I can see all of it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's a really good point. Because I don't want to like, I think for me, it's like, it's important not to be like, oh, well, it's all great, or it's all, you know,
Right.
it's all of it. And I don't know, I have experienced, maybe I've been lucky in my life with just a great deal of goodness from human beings. So that's what I believe in, even if we're sometimes emotionally limping along,
Yeah.
dealing with stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm noticing our time. So I'm just curious, as we slowly, gently wrap up here, Heidi, were you going to do a chat pack?
I have a really great chat pack question.
Okay. And is there anything that either of you wanted to say that might like would help you feel complete on the convo? Just checking in.
I'm feeling really good about this conversation. I really enjoyed having Ginny as our guest. Appreciating everything you brought here. So sweet and lovely. And yeah, and just to have a different voice is always really welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Heidi.
you for being you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for just your presence and sort of your, think of those Care Bears, right? Like just your big loving heart and your willingness to witness and acknowledge, like you're modeling something really vital in our world of acknowledging each other and hearing each other and reflecting back to each other what we hear. And just, it's such a lovely tending to each other energy that I see you doing really just masterfully. So thank you for bringing that.
You're welcome. And just to feel complete, and for anyone who's listening, one of the things in my in me becoming more aligned with myself, intentions really work for me, even on the tennis court. What are my intentions for this game to work on? And what it does is it brings me back to that core that you were talking about, which keeps the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking to, and just to finish off once, I've just picked up my angel cards, and in honor of Tuesday, I'm just going to draw a card. I'm just going to pull one out. Oh, and it's playfulness.
Oh,
There's your answer.
oh my God, that's perfect.
I
love it. I love it.
It's a perfect lead into chat pack.
Into our chat pack. So today's chat pack question is, what is the kindest thing someone has ever done for you?
Wow. I'm just having so many flickers of memories coming up. That's a hard one. I'm touched even just thinking about trying to pick one. Heidi, have you had more time to think about this than us?
And I don't have anything specific. So what I will say is that anytime I get invited into a circle or to be a part of something, like if it's like if I'm at a conference that has a couple thousand people and I'm there with myself and I don't really know anyone, to be invited into a circle or a group of people, like the kid in the lunchroom who doesn't have, is sitting alone, that kind of thing always really warms my heart. And I have a real tender place for those situations. So, yeah, anytime I'm invited in a loving way is really sweet. Yeah.
I love that. How about you, Ginny? Is anything rising up?
Yeah, it's like, do I go specific or do I go, zoom out? Honestly, just holding space here and saying one of the kindest things today in this week and present is both of you really acknowledging me and having me on here, and no one really knowing how much work it took to show up like this. And you both allowing me to bring it forward onto a new platform and a new beginning. So I want to say right now that the kindest thing is both of you sending me that email asking me to be on cocktails and pajamas.
Oh my God,
in my pajamas.
Oh, wow.
Sweet. Oh my God, I'm so touched.
My heart is all like melty and sparkly and all the good, yummy things. Thank you.
Feeling squishy.
Means a lot that this is something kind for you. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Ginny.
Thank you.
I'd say for me, and I'm going to go general, I think all the times I have felt some kind of shame, some aspect of myself or something I'm struggling with, and someone's loved me anyway, or loved me especially when, and that can be my parents, my partner, friends, but that really tough place that I can experience where I think something's wrong with me, and having other people be like, I love you anyway, and I love you especially right now because you need more loving. That's been hugely reparative for me, that kind of kindness.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, guests who were on with us today. I'm not on Facebook right now, so I don't know, but thank you for being here. And if you watch later and you want to say hello, please feel free. Ask a question if you have a question. Comment if you have a comment. We're open to all of it. Ginny Connon, thank you again for being our guest today on Tuesday, 2/22/2022.
Ginny, where can they find you? If
How can people contact you?
My website is www.motivation.love.
Excellent.
And Insta is @GutsyCoach.
Okay.
Okay, beautiful. Love it. Well, thank you both so much. This has been such a delight to play and commune in here with you.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye.